Two Bulls in a China Shop is brought to you in part by our sponsors and friends over at Manscaped, Trade Pro Academy, and Vanta Trading. Manscaped is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming with precision-engineered tools for your family jewels, and with a new and improved 2.0 version of the Weed Whacker now available, it's the perfect time to take advantage of our exclusive offer of 20% off and free worldwide shipping using promo code 2bulls at manscaped.com. As always, that is the number 2. And when it comes to institutional quality trading education, look no further than tradeproacademy.com. In our free Discord server, you'll find instructions to take advantage of our discount with them as well. And for anyone trading futures, check out vantatrading.com. Founded by Mr. W. Banks and Baba Yaga, they provide a ton of educational content with the focus of teaching aspiring traders how to build a repeatable, profitable process. Our exclusive discount code for Vanta can also be found in our free Discord server. We'll have all of those links and more in the episode description. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's conversation.
When you download the Kroger app, you have easy access to savings every day. Shop weekly sales and get personalized coupons to get the most value out of every trip, every time, whether you shop in-store or online. Download the Kroger app now to save big. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Must have a digital account to redeem offers. Restrictions may apply. See site for details.
Save big on your favorites with the Buy 5 or More, Save $1 each sale. Simply buy 5 or more participating items and save $1 each with your card. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
You are listening to an entertainment program put together by a company called Financial Ineptitude. Anything said on this show is not an endorsement or professional advice. Would you really want to tell a court of law you were suing us because you thought taking financial advice from two idiots on a podcast put out by Financial Ineptitude was a good idea? Really? Clown hat, smiley face.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the China Shop. Joining me today is the bona fide and brilliant Bruce Scott, CPA, MBA, FCA at a large foreign accounting firm, and author of 14 Steps to Financial Freedom. If you would like to learn more about today's guest or his book, you can check out his website at 14stepstofinancialfreedom.com, and that's the number 14. Or you can check him out on LinkedIn or Instagram. We'll have those links in the episode description. And be sure to reach out to us with your suggestions, corrections, or questions for future guests. You can do that via email at 2bulls@financialineptitude.com, number 2. Or you can join our free Discord server where a bunch of amazing people gather to share our struggles and lessons learned with other like-minded market aficionados. We'll have all those links in the episode description so you can peruse them at your convenience. Now, without any further ado, let's get to know today's guest. Bruce, how are you doing today?
I am very good, Kyle. And how are you doing?
It's been an interesting day today. I'm watching the markets. Recording this on, what day is today? The 18th. Finally got out of a massive balance area.
Okay, cool.
So, Bruce, you're from Jamaica?
Yes, sir. Beautiful Jamaica.
Is it common in Jamaica to have very American-sounding names?
Yes.
Like Bob Marley is one of the ones I was thinking of.
Yes, and British sounding names as well.
British. That makes sense.
So we are just like the US, although you got independence a lot longer and earlier than we did.
Right.
So you got, I think, independence 17 something. We got it in 1962. So it's all that British influence that was left behind, so to speak. So yeah, my name is Bruce Scott.
I was just watching an English show, and they had a guy from Malaysia on there, and he had a very British sounding name too, but it was like Nigel. Like there's a lot of Nigels and stuff there. He said that they left Malaysia in like the 60s, so all their names and stuff stopped from that period. So they have all these older names.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. So how'd you get interested in like the financial world?
Well, I was exposed from high school. So in Jamaica, our educational system is built on the back of the British system. I'm not sure exactly how the American educational system works, but in high school, they introduced us to, believe it or not, accounting from the 9th grade.
Really?
Yes. And I was introduced to accounting, balance sheet, profit and loss. And I was very good at accounting. And so I kept doing it all the way until what you would call 12th grade. And when I got to what we also call sixth form, which is a British term, I picked up economics as well. And I did advanced math. So I was introduced in high school and liked it. And so I decided that I'd become first a British chartered accountant. Not forgive, but we're from a British heritage. So, a lot of our stuff was British, our name, or our educational system, or accounting
Right.
designations. And then having gotten the British professional designation, I also went and become an American CPA through the state of Colorado. I just live. Miami is 90 minutes from Jamaica. I felt like it made sense to have an American designation.
Yeah.
So, and then I went to work at a Big Four firm, PricewaterhouseCoopers Jamaica, a member firm of PricewaterhouseCoopers International, one of the largest professional services networks in the world. And that's my entry into the world of finance.
Man, that's definitely different than the U.S. Is there's just not enough financial literacy being taught, I think, at any level, and from grade school up to high school, where really I think that could be a huge benefit to a lot of the population. Like even something as simple as learning how to balance a checkbook would have been nice, 20 years ago. I guess it's not quite as important these days, but
Yeah.
some of those skills, like
But the thing is, Kyle, even though I was exposed to accounting, it was because I elected accounting, and it's nice to have been introduced, but it's slightly different from the personal finance. Accounting is like historical stuff. The personal finance is a lot of it is prospective. What am I going to do when I reach 60?
Right.
My kid is going to get to college age. Some of it is retrospective, where you have to look at what you spend from a budgeting perspective. And that's actually why I wrote the book, because I realized that this thing is not taught. This thing meaning how to manage money, that we have to touch for the rest of our lives. It's not taught in schools in the same way that science is taught.
I know.
So that was my driving force for the book.
I've talked to a few people that have given back to communities, and I see that you've actually gone back, and like the book came from a course that you were teaching at your high school.
Yeah.
How did you get involved getting back there and actually, teaching to them? How did that happen?
Excellent question. Might give you a long answer.
No, take your time. I love hearing these stories.
So, Kyle, I also happen to have, if you hear me say qualify, I mean when I became a professional accountant. So I became a professional accountant at a very young age. It was a national record at the time in Jamaica.
Oh, congratulations.
I was 21 years old, and there was a lot of celebration around that. So having gotten that brand, a lot of people just believe I know everything. I don't mean that literally, but so they tell me about their money worries, their money problems. And as I listened very openly and willingly, free of cost. I remember one night I was on a call with a couple from the US, having done a free webinar from 7 o'clock to 11 o'clock in the night, just coaching them through their stuff, deep stuff, deep in the sea of debt and similar challenges. And I saw that there was a systemic trend with a number of other persons who would talk to me. And these were persons who were in serious pain. There is a strong relationship between the size of your savings and your bank account and your emotional well-being, right?
Yeah.
There is a strong link. So having given that background, Kyle, and I realized, and a lot of those persons would say to me, Bruce, the coaching that you're giving to me, I wish if somebody had taught me this 15 years ago.
Yes.
I am not kidding. I can be a little bit dramatic, but I'm serious. That's what they said. And I actually spoke about this in the book, what I just said a while ago. And with that, I went to the principal of my high school in 2019, I believe. And we stood on the basketball court at Jamaica College, 189 Olof Road, Kingston, Jamaica. And I said, Mr. Robinson, I would like to come and teach. We have a term, it's an all-boys school. It's one of the prominent high schools. I said to him, I would like to come back and teach the college men. We use the word college for high school. So my high school is Jamaica College.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
It's really a high school. A little bit confusing. And I said, I'd like to teach this to what you would probably call 11th and 12th grade. And he agreed on the spot, right there on the basketball court. And so ever since that time, I have taught with a willing heart no charge. It's such a joy. 11th and 12th graders. And guess what? The teachers have now joined into that
I was
class.
gonna ask how many other adults tried to jump in there.
It was amazing. And the teachers were meant to be, it was ceremonial, the very first one. Hey, old boy Bruce is back. And they were just there to celebrate. And they never left. They never left. They came back every week.
Oh, that's amazing.
It is an amazing story.
So you mentioned some of the struggles that some of the people you talked to had went through. It sounded like you had some of those same struggles growing up.
Correct.
Can you talk a little bit more about that and how you managed to elevate yourself?
Yeah, man. Wow, Kyle, you're on fire, man. Great question.
Well, thank you. Then try.
Yeah, no, listen, we tend to use euphemisms like I grew up in humble circumstances. I grew up in a poor household. My mother had 11 siblings. In other words, my grandmother had 12 children, including my mother. And we grew up in what we would characterize as tenement yards. Those are yards with other neighbors, and you only have like 2 rooms, and the bathroom facilities are outside.
Yeah.
So if you want to do your stuff in the middle of the night, you better go out and look up at the beautiful skyline. I'm not exaggerating. So that was the context in which I was born and raised, tough inner city community. But my family taught me the value and power of education. That sounds like a cliche, but it was a real thing. And I got it. I used to travel to the markets to sell clothing with my grandmother, who was a dressmaker. And I made a decision that we were going to be lifted out of this poverty. And I saw education as the vehicle to get me out. And so I did very well academically, driven by the passion and the obsessive desire to change our financial situation. And and then I went to work at PricewaterhouseCoopers Jamaica. I became a partner at 32 years old, and now I'm the head of the firm. It's an amazing story, if I might say so.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And yeah, so having struggled financially, Kyle, growing up, when people share their burdens with me, I can identify with them, and I don't charge. I listen, and I will do just about anything in my powers to challenge them to behave differently, because there's a strong link between behavior and money. And so, I'm also from a biblical worldview. And only what I mean by that is a lot of the times when messages are delivered by the prophets who suffered where the people suffered were able to deliver those messages more passionately, because they know what it is like to be plundered by the enemy, or to have your house burnt down. So when they see somebody else's house burned down, they will do anything to restore that person. So that's my worldview, and that's why I'm so passionate about helping others.
It makes a lot of sense, because I think when you talk to somebody who's, the head of an accounting firm, a major one, and, living a good life, and then he comes and tells you got to change your attitude. Like it's one thing coming from somebody who's, was born into that life, but somebody who lived, the struggle that you're going through, it just becomes that much more powerful, that much more impactful.
Yes.
And I agree 100% with what you're saying there.
Yes, it does.
So you said that education was the main focus and the main tool that you used to lift yourself. Do you think that is another path that you'd recommend, or the same path that you'd recommend to other people, or are there other avenues that people can try to elevate themselves or lift themselves out of their?
Well, you know what? I think it would be my number one, if I were to rank.
Yeah.
It would be my number one recommendation, simply because I also believe that every one of us has natural gifts and talents, passions that we have. And those are like diamonds in the rough. And for example, I am pretty good at numbers, but I needed the roughness, so to speak, that diamond, to be sharpened with further education and training. And so everybody, I think, with a little bit more knowledge and education, it doesn't always have to be a 4-year degree, right?
Right.
It's just you taking, like, let's use Usain Bolt from Jamaica, right?
Ah, yes.
The fastest man alive. He was a diamond in the rough. He did not do well in the 2004 Athens Olympics. He fell below his potential. And he saw Glenn Mills, who became his coach. And Glenn Mills took who was going to be this amazing global superstar. And he was a diamond in the rough. He needed education. He needed training. He needed nurturing. So I think every one of us, regardless of our class or background, you would do well to educate yourself. A lot of young people say, oh, Bill Gates fell out of school, dropped out of school. But guess what? Bill Gates had knowledge. He
Yes.
had wisdom.
He
had it in a different format, right?
He still went to school. He still learned something.
And he still had to spend hours learning stuff, even if it may not have been in a university environment.
Yes.
The other ways, Kyle, there are lots of young people today. I want to be a YouTuber. Nothing is wrong with that because it speaks to entrepreneurship. But even if you want to be a YouTuber, it doesn't substitute from the fact that you're going to have something to present. You're going to have to be educated about something. So,
Right.
You know what? I only have one answer for you, man. You got to find some knowledge somewhere and be a master of that. You need a fabulous inheritance. I don't know if you can put your pot on the fire for that. It's really about getting something between your two ears and bringing in, of course, the emotional intelligence, the hard work, the integrity to marry with that raw knowledge of you being good at something.
I love that. I love that answer because the education is the answer, and that's
it is. Anyway, look at it, formal degree or not,
and not even like college necessarily. Like you said, like my personal path, college was not in my future is not something I had any interest in. But I also knew that I had to do something to better my circumstances. I was working at Walmart as a 19-year-old, living on my own, like barely with enough cash to make ends meet. And I ended up joining the Navy because to me, that was a way to force myself to learn a skill or a trade. And it ended up being one of the best decisions I think I've ever made.
Awesome. Yeah.
So everyone there's other ways to get your education, but there's no substitute for it, I think is the point you made.
There is no substitute. If you want to, and I'm going to put it in quotation mark, if you want a relatively safe path and you want to go the college route and you either worked, don't particularly like student loan, but I think there's a place for it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to go that safer path, that's fine. The studies show that if you do have a college degree, and you're likely to earn more than somebody who stops with a high school diploma. But what the studies don't necessarily show is that for persons who have, I'm saying the same thing in a different way, that if you found other ways of quote unquote educating yourself without the label of a college degree, and you may have the scholarship of a college degree, and you can add value in that context, then go for it, right?
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to feel like because they didn't go to college, they are under this dark cloud of you can't get true success. Absolutely not. Read Outlier by Malcolm Gladwell.
You can make six figures easily just doing some simple welding apprenticeships.
Exactly.
Like the pipe fitters make a killing, but you have to be willing to travel. I mean, there's other opportunities. It doesn't have to be. Doesn't have to be the 4-year degree route, like you said.
Doesn't have to be.
So you kind of touched on it a little bit with the book, some of the ideas behind it, and you said that it had a lot to do with your mentality around money. Am I understanding that right? Can you speak a little more to that idea?
My mentality around money,
like your beliefs and your.
Yeah, one of the reasons why a lot of persons don't progress further along the road to financial freedom is because they have distorted belief systems around money. I'm going to expand on that, right? So I have an expression, and I'm not going to claim that I design it or own it, that belief affects behavior, right? If I say to you, Kyle, the location that you're at with this podcast, there is a lion in the basement. I don't know if you're in a basement, right? But
I am actually. How'd you know?
I don't know. I'm just guessing, right? There's a hungry lion that has the ability to bore through the wall. If you believe that, this is the end of this podcast. You are out of that basement, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm saying, Kyle, there are messages that we all have received about money. And one of those messages is that money is having wealth is evil.
Yeah.
Having money is having a lot of money is evil, which is bad belief. And
Yes.
when you believe that stuff, then it affects your view towards working hard, which is where most of us get certainly our initial seed
Mm-hmm.
to go and invest that into wealth, turn it wealth. So your mentality is important. So thank God I knew from an early age that money itself, Mr. Kyle, is not evil.
Mm-hmm.
It is the love of money that is a root, not the root either. Two
Mm-hmm.
corrections. Money itself is not evil. The love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. And so, persons need to understand that it is okay. It's what you do with that money. And in the book, I argue very strongly that when you have achieved enough to take care of yourself and your family, and you have a little excess, the book is called, the tagline to the book is Simple Strategies to Grow, Protect, and Sow Your Money. Very easy to remember. How to GPS your money. Grow, protect, sow your money. And the sow, coming back to mentality, the
Mm-hmm.
sow your money, I'm not repeating anything to do with grow. When I say grow, I mean budgeting and investing and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Having budgeted, having saved, having invested, now you've protected with your insurance products and your estate planning. You now need to sow. I'm talking about mentality. And the sow there is to give back to those who are naked and wounded and hurting and need a helping hand to get to financial freedom. So that's part of the mentality too. So whilst the love of money is the root of all evil, if you cling too tight or if you're loving it too much, if you're not willing to open your fists and help somebody else to get to a level of financial freedom, which is why I give back so many hours to my high
Mm-hmm.
school and the person I was on the phone with for 4 hours and didn't charge them. Mentality and money are like a pea in a pod. Sorry for the passion. Sorry for the long answer.
No, I love it. I love it.
Vote me on that, Mr. Kyle.
I will. That's the tagline of this episode. I need to get you and Rich Friesen, I think, in a room together. As Rich Friesen just wrote his own book on a very similar concept about our relationship with money.
Yeah.
I would love to, I think, to just put you two in a room, hit the record button, sit back and listen to you guys talk ideas, because I think that'd be fascinating.
Yeah, let's go for it. Yeah. So money and mentality, and if you link it back to my opening remark about belief affecting behavior,
Mm-hmm.
so if you believe all that nonsense, sounds strong about money itself being evil, then you're gonna not push to work hard because you're gonna say if I accumulate a lot, then I'm an evil person.
Yeah.
But these messages are seeped in subconsciously and
Yes.
sometimes directly.
Yeah, every time you hear or see those hit pieces on billionaires talking about how terrible they are, or I mean, like, I don't know. There's a lot of people out there doing good with money. There's a lot of people doing bad with money. Money is a tool. Money's not.
Yes.
Money doesn't have any
Yes.
motivation. Money doesn't care about you.
Yes, and it's funny that you would say that because in the book,
Oh.
in the last part of the book, right, where I talk about sow your money. So the sow your money is the book has 3 parts: grow your money, protect your money, and sow your money. And under sow your money, it has 2 short chapters. And the first chapter is love thy neighbor. And in there, I talk about the standard to which we need to help others. And it is simply us seeing someone in need and not necessarily that the person even ask us. That's a very high standard.
Yeah, it is.
And I gave an anecdote of, again, just for illustrative purposes, not trying to convince anyone about religion, but just for illustrative purposes, the story about the Good Samaritan. The man was robbed. He was beaten and broken and bruised and lying on a dark Jericho road. He could not speak. But what spoke? His lifeless body, shouting for help. And somebody with the means saw him and helped him. He saw the need. The man couldn't talk.
Yeah.
He was half dead.
Oh, I love that.
Don't stop me up, Kyle. Yeah, so I'm very, very passionate, really, really passionate about sewing.
So that covers the sew part. What about the first 2 parts?
So before you can sow, then you have to have something in your hand, right?
Yeah.
Before you can sow a seed, you have to have a seed. So if you were to ask me, I'm explaining about the grow part of the book, right? So Kyle,
Mm-hmm.
if you were to ask me, Bruce, I'm interested in growing cabbage. How do you grow cabbage? I'm like, huh?
Right.
Like, I have absolutely no clue how to grow cabbage. But guess what? There are millions, I would even say billions of people. We go through the school system and we all have to touch money. And if you
Uh-huh.
ask the average person, Charles Schwab did a study in 2019 and it says 59% of American adults live paycheck to paycheck, which implies that many don't know how to grow their money. So
Mm-hmm.
that part of the book is giving hope to persons who are in a sea of debt. They're in a state of sadness and helplessness that makes them feel hopeless. By the way, that's a technical definition for depression.
Yeah.
Many people are in financial depression. So the book says, you're in this depressed state. I am going to show you a picture of hope, which immediately starts to lift them emotionally. And in that part of the book, I give 9 steps, but I'll just say quickly, I'm going to collapse it in 3 quick points. So in that part of the book, I say, listen, in the same way that you can grow a plant, you can grow your money. And the first thing is you must understand your current financial health.
Mm-hmm.
You need to know where you are. If you're going to run a marathon, the Boston Marathon, you don't just pick up yourself and go run to the Boston Marathon if you've never done it before. You need to go do a health check. You need to talk to your physician, right?
Yeah.
And when you see where you are, then you might need to say, I can't run it this year, I may run it this next year. So I give 10 listeners, I give 10 financial health indicators in the book. If you want to know your financial condition clinically, in the same way that the doctor will test your blood sugar, test your cholesterol, test your PSA, test your blood count, we can do the same thing metaphorically with your money. You ask many people how to do that, they look at you like if you ask me how to grow cabbage. I don't know how to do that, right?
Yes, nice.
And for each of the 10, I give the target, the best practice. And you're able to measure yourself and you can see where you fall short. The doctors will say your blood sugar should be X, your blood pressure should be Y. We know
Yeah.
what the targets are.
Right.
We have similar targets and they're all articulated in the book.
How did you come to those targets or those metrics? How did you boil it down? Or is that the secret sauce?
No, it's all in the book. I will tell you, I will tell you that this whole book project was born out of passion for helping others.
I can tell.
I never dreamt of being an author. I never sat in my balcony and look up in the sky and say, hey, it should be a nice thing to see my name through the window of a bookstore. That's not how it started.
Mm-hmm.
It simply started with the pain of persons. And so a lot of inspiration came with that passion. I just had and it's not a new idea necessarily for persons to do their health check, but the way how I have characterized it, my metaphors, people love it, right? So it's inspiration intertwined with just reading. There's nothing new under the sun, right? So there's a lot of literature out there on these things, but I've just kind of put it in a way that is very easy to understand and to remember. And people absolutely love. I can't tell you the number of presentations that I've done, and people are like, Bruce, you make it so easy. You can relate to it.
They're probably happy to have some hope.
There you go. That's step 1 for growing, by the way, but we can continue with some of the other steps later on.
Friends, family, and loved ones, I bet you haven't purchased a Father's Day gift yet, have you? Not to fear, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming are here. I'm talking about our friends at Manscaped. They're saving the day yet again with the total package for father figure in your life this year. It's time to upgrade his game from waist to face with this exclusive offer. Have him join the 8 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get 20% off and free shipping with the code 2bulls at manscaped.com. I'm supposed to tell a funny manscaping story or talk about how hairy my dad is, but I'm really not that close with my father. He does like a good beard trimmer, though. But for those of you who are familiar with your father's grooming routines, or lack thereof, then you can start with the ultimate Father's Day MVP, the Performance Package 4.0. Inside this package, he'll find their signature Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, the brand new Weed Whacker 2.0 ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver, Ball Deodorant, Crop Reviver, Toner, Performance Boxer Briefs, and a travel bag to hold all of his goodies. And we can't forget about the moneymaker. Manscaped has absolutely changed the game with their new Beard Hedger Pro Kit for fathers around the world. Included is the Beard Hedger Trimmer, Beard Shampoo and Conditioner, Beard Oil, Beard Balm, and 2 free gifts with their signature beard comb and scissors. This is the perfect gift for those of us who have had a normal childhood. And we all know dads love comfort. If his grooming routine is already dialed in, make sure to hook him up with Manscaped's Boxers 2.0. These are without a doubt the best boxers for men of all ages, and it's sure to give you that awkward moment we all love when your dad sees you bought him underwear for Father's Day. So whether he's mowing the lawn, taking out the trash, or golfing in the sun, these moisture-wicking boxers breathe without breaking a sweat. So get 20% off and free shipping with code 2bulls at manscaped.com. It's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code 2bulls. Make this Father's Day one you won't forget with manscaped.com.
At Kroger, we know the minute a tomato is picked, the fresh timer starts. The sooner we get our produce to you, the fresher it is. That's why we've shortened the time from harvest to home for our tasty tomatoes, strawberries, and salads. So no matter how you shop, you have more time with your fresh produce. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Save big on your favorites with the Buy 5 or More Save $1 each sale. Simply buy 5 or more participating items and save $1 each with your card. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Well, I just wanted to touch back on what you're saying about understanding the health of your own financial picture and how easy it is when we're in those sea of debt or when we feel like we're drowning or in that financial depression that you called it. It's almost like if you don't look at it, if you don't acknowledge it, then it's not there. Like
That's correct.
that's I think the mentality a lot of us slip into, and that's
Yeah,
just going to lead you into the same cycle, right?
it will, and I actually address that in the book, right? There is a section of the book where I talk about money personalities,
Mm-hmm.
and that we all have money personality, and one of the money personalities is that of an ostrich, and usually the ostrich is somebody who has a lot of, they fail, strong words, they miss the mark, more euphemistic, they miss the mark with the 10 financial indicators. Their debt to income ratio is high. They don't have proper health insurance, don't have proper life insurance. They
Mm-hmm.
don't have any emergency fund. They're not investing for their kids' college. They don't have proper pension, right? And when people do the test, as I said, there's a link between money and emotions.
Mm-hmm.
It naturally makes you feel down. I did the test with a young medical doctor, and she did not do so well. And I said, "How are you feeling emotionally?" She said, "Sad, embarrassed,
Mm-hmm.
anxious, and afraid." That's what she said to me.
Wow.
And then, of course, I gave her a couple pointers, and that significantly turned her situation around. And then afterwards, I said, "How are you feeling?" She said, "I feel hopeful."
That's awesome.
And I mean, so to go back to the point, so I made a point in the book that financial problems do not disappear. I have some interesting metaphors, like steam from a rising pot. That's the
Uh-huh.
metaphor that I use. And I also said a financial problem ignored is like a small infected wound ignored that may lead
Yep.
later to amputation. I use those images in the book. And so I argue, do not be like the ostrich when you have the emotional pain, and that will make you want to feel like doing nothing. You need to think about the legacy of your family and find a why, and that will give you the strength. And when you run into a book like this and you read my story, it will give you hope. Bruce can do it. 12 siblings, poor family.
Mm-hmm.
And here he is, as credible as he is, and he's not just telling me about his story, he's giving me a roadmap. I'm giving the 14 steps. That's amazing
Yes, sir.
based on what people have been saying to me. Right?
uh, another thing too that I always go back to, like every time I get that feeling of like I want to ignore the financial issues, like if I got a big credit card bill and I don't want to look at it or I'm afraid to see what it is for the month. I always find that when I do actually sit down and look at it, it's always not as bad as I built it up in my mind. The longer you let it go, the bigger the elephant I think becomes in your head. So I'm curious how many of the people that you talk to that are afraid to look, afraid to start, like how many of them look and then once everything's down and on paper, they think, oh, you know what? This isn't nearly as bad as I thought it was.
Most people don't want to look, but
Mm-hmm.
with the way that I start and I explain that this is a discussion around hope, once you see, this is so amazing. Once you see a path, even if you're at step one, the fact that you can see a way out,
Yes.
it makes them feel better.
Mm-hmm.
and so they're more willing to listen and to do the health check. And the way I would do the health check sometimes is that red is the ones that you're struggling with,
Right.
right? And I did one for a lady. She had is 10 steps, and she had like 9 or 10 reds.
Oof.
And having seen that, she said, "Okay, fine." She agreed to some treatments, and I was just casually moving along, and she said, "Bruce, I want you to do the color code again so I can see my greens."
Ha. Good for her.
She wanted to feel like she's progressing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just saying, whoever is coaching and even the language of the book, if you start by saying, "Look, it's not necessarily going to be pretty, but I'm giving you a path. I'm giving you a way." It's like you going to the doctor. If you're feeling a pain in your chest or your foot or somewhere and you don't know what it is, once the doctor finds the diagnosis, even if you
Mm-hmm.
don't like the diagnosis, you start to feel better because he's going to say, "This is a treatment plan." That's exactly how the book is built.
Yeah, and at least with finances, that's most likely you're not going to get a situation where like, oh, sorry, you might as well just close up shop and expire tomorrow because there's no hope.
No,
That's not the case in the financial
no,
world.
no. So it starts with the diagnosis, and then the next step is, I'm not going to give you all 9, but just quickly, if you don't mind, Kyle.
Yeah,
So you do
please,
the
please do.
diagnosis. You do the diagnosis. You look at your 10 indicators. Emergency fund. Are you saving towards a retirement account? Do you have life insurance? And for every single one of these, like I said, I have the target. So your life insurance coverage, you really need 6 to 10 times your gross salary. You're
Hmm.
gonna know how much you actually have, right?
Right, should.
But here you, you should. But here is the pivot, Kyle. Is not to see the problem.
Hmm.
It's to now move to how do I fix it, and then
Yes.
I pivot to the next step. Set financial goals and become obsessive about achieving them. And once you know what your weak areas or your sick areas are, have some birds outside. It's
I.
not difficult. It's not difficult
Hmm.
to set those financial goals. And when I explain this to people, like, Bruce, this is so easy. So, for example, one of your tests one of the tests is that your emergency fund. You should have, let's say, you need $2,000 per month to live. You're a single person,
Hmm.
and we recommend 6 months, 3 to 6 months. 3 times 2 is $6,000, right?
Yeah.
You need an emergency fund of $6,000. But if you have zero savings from you do the health check, that's going to be a problem. So one of your goals should be to build an emergency fund over a reasonable period of time.
Hmm.
So the goal is like the treatment. So your blood sugar is high, you need to stop eating so much sweet. That's the treatment. And you can literally do a simple mapping of all the things that you need to do, which are your financial goals, to fix those weak areas. But I'm also arguing it's not just a writing the goals. You must be obsessive about turning your financial situation around. I was obsessed with helping my family to
Hmm.
get out of the financial distress that we were in. That was my why. And when your why makes you cry, then you will do what you have to do without breaking any laws to turn that situation
Ah,
around.
that was my next question was going to be was how do you instill that obsessiveness? Like how do you get people to flip that switch and take it that seriously? But it sounds like what you said, you have to figure out your why. Once you know your why and you really, really want it, it will happen.
Yes, yes. A lot of people would want to help their parents more.
Hmm.
A lot of people want to help their communities more. A lot. Look, I've had situations where, not to bragging or boasting, there's just so much need, so much pain out there. You know, you have a. I know somebody that had a relative who was not well,
Hmm.
and they never had enough money to attend the funeral because it was in a far place. Those are money. The money thing is not a joke.
No.
It's a serious thing. So that so you diagnose the financial goals. That's the treatment, and the third thing on the grow, which is probably the most important, Kyle. I talk about the fuel of learning how to save money.
Hmm.
We live in a culture of instant gratification.
Yes.
Consumerism, you're bombarded. So I talk about avoiding cultural influences. And all of those points were just encouraging the reader. You must learn to save money. It is the fuel that will drive those goals. It is the blood that runs through your financial vein. The money is the seed. The farmer cannot eat the seed. The farmer must find a way to keep back some of that
Mm-hmm.
seed so that those can be planted. And I get into living on a budget, avoiding cultural influences, and managing debt. And that's LAM. You want a mathematical formula for saving money? It's living on a budget plus avoiding cultural influences plus managing debt equals saving money.
Yes.
Go get the book.
Yes. Man, I feel like I was probably really blessed to have the grandparents that I had, the influence that, because they're the ones who taught me about money. I think my parents never really talked about it with me. My dad was never all that great at saving or planning, but they instilled
Mhm.
a lot of great values with me, like never using credit, always paying cash for any big purchases. So if I wanted something, I'd set a goal, I'd save for it, and then once I had the cash to go buy it, then well, what usually would happen is I'd find that I preferred having the money rather than the actual thing because enough time had passed.
Awesome.
But if I really wanted it, then now I could do it without putting myself in any financial hardships. And
Awesome.
I'm glad to see that somebody's out there trying to teach some of these concepts and stuff to the younger generation because
Yeah.
it's missing. It
Yeah.
really is.
It is missing, Kyle, and in the tagline, in the subtitle to the book, right?
Hmm.
So if you don't mind repeating, it says simple strategies to grow, protect, and store your money at any age.
Hmm.
So I'm not targeting working adults only.
Right.
The book has what I'm calling money journal assignments at the end of each of the 14 steps for working adults and for students.
I love that.
That's how much energy and effort that went into this, because I'm also arguing in the book, if you can learn to save even $100 a month from your working life until you're
Hmm.
60, 40, you won't need to worry about money ever because of the law of compound interest. And I have the math
Yep.
in the book that shows the young people now is the time. Time is your biggest friend. Compound interest is another ally. And with some discipline, if you start saving money, $100 a month, the benchmark is 15% of your annual income. But some people cannot start there because of student loans. But if you average even 5-10% of your income over your working life, starting working at age 22, by the time you hit 60, you have much more than a million
Hmm.
US. And if you adjust that with the inflation rate over the years,
You'll be fine.
apply the 4% rule, you don't need to worry about
Oh
anything.
yes.
I talk about that in the book.
In fact, the power of compounding is so amazing. I remember seeing this is before inflation, so the numbers are probably different now. But I want to say it was something as low as like a little over $2,000 or $3,000 at like if you put that into an IRA or into an index fund when your child is born, by the time they hit retirement age, they will not have to worry about retirement. Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
how powerful time is when it comes to growing wealth.
yeah, yeah. And I could add to that, right? If you put $100 a month
Hmm.
over the next 40 years and into some kind of a mutual fund or index fund that averages 12%, which is kind of on the top end,
Hmm.
right? That's 1.2 million US
Yeah.
dollars.
Yep.
$100 a month. Eat a little less, buy a little less brand name, right? You get to $100 easily. You automatically set that thing off. In even if you don't do the 12%, the S&P 500 averaged 10.5% over the last 65 years up to 2001.
Yep.
That's the power right there. We need to talk about these things and we need to teach these things at school. You don't need to leave your money in a 0.01% savings account. Inflation will erode that.
Hmm. Do you think we'll ever get back to having 5, 6, 7, 8% interest rates from banks?
Yes. And the reason I'm saying that is if you look historically, there are a lot. I'm not an economist, I'm an accountant, but
Hmm.
there are lots of cycles that you'll notice. Whether it's the recession cycle, whether it's the stock market cycle. And even here in Jamaica, our interest rates spiked over the last maybe year. Lots of the central banks, the equivalent to your Fed, they've been increasing their policy rates, which have been increasing the borrowing rate because they're trying to keep inflation down.
Right.
But here in Jamaica, our central bank have actually started to reduce the policy rate and our inflation rate and our lending rates. More so our inflation rate. So our inflation rate, the last one that came out a couple of days ago, was 5.8%, coming down from 11%.
Oof. Well, at least it's going the right way.
It's settling down, for us in Jamaica.
Well, we covered growth and we covered sow, but we haven't talked about protect yet. Do you have any insights you'd like to share with that idea?
Yeah, of course. So protect carries the idea that, let's say you have a beautiful orchid that you've spent a lot of time growing.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to leave that orchid for your nice poodle or some stray animal to destroy that beautiful plant, right?
Right.
And so we need to learn to protect. And under protect, I give 3 instruments or 3 tools, basic tools. One of them, and that particular chapter is called, and it's amazing how I just know this out of my head. Yes, I'm the author, so I should. It says get insurance protection. The storms of life will come.
Mm-hmm.
Once you are a card-carrying member of the human race, your phone is going to ring one day, or you're going to get a text message or an email that some negative thing has happened. That's one of the distinguishing marks of being a human being. We are aware that pain is around the corner. It's just a matter of when.
Yes.
That's what it means to be human. So whether it's going to be, God forbid, a car or the death of a loved one, and so insurance protection is one of the ways that you can protect your health. Life insurance, Kyle,
Mm-hmm.
most people are way under the life insurance coverage that they need. And part of it is a lack of knowledge. More people need to be taught about term life insurance. I am not one of those persons who will kick whole life or permanent insurance to the curb. And for those who are listening, term life is you buy insurance for a particular term.
Right.
You only get coverage. Whole life is where you buy insurance, you get a little savings and coverage. So, the whole life tends to be a little bit more expensive. But too many people are underinsured. And part of it is because they were never properly introduced to this other thing called term life, right?
Yeah.
And you have young couples, one die early, they have a whole life policy that is relatively expensive and only covers them maybe 20%, 30%, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
So in the book, I talk about term life. You need 6 to 10% of your gross income, and the fastest way to get that coverage is a term life policy. If you have chronic health issues, right? And again, we're not giving financial advice here, and the views represented here by me are mine and not any of the entities I represent. But if you don't have, for you to get to that recommended 10 times your gross income, the cheapest and fastest way to do that is term policy, which can be 10 times cheaper than a whole life. Forgive all the jargon. We're just saying one way to protect your wealth is to have proper insurance, and one of those being life insurance.
Another interesting thing about insurance is just how few people, I think, try to use it when they can. Like, I just recently had to replace a roof on one of my rental properties, and if I hadn't known that my insurance policy was going to cover that, or even to ask that question, that would have been a very large out-of-pocket expense.
It would have been. So, and as you mentioned that, right, I talk about property insurance, and similar to what you just said, but the main argument, one of the main arguments I made about property insurance is being careful about the value that you insure your property, right? They encourage you to insure the replacement costs so that if you had a loss, you will be compensated at the full loss,
right?
Rather than if you insure at an amount that's lower than the replacement cost. All of this is in the book, guys. So we're not going to try and explain everything to the T, right?
We gotta leave something, right? Can't spoil it all.
Yeah. And I talk about disability insurance, and most people over their lifetime at some point, they may not be permanently disabled, but you may have to stop working for some period of time. It doesn't have to be anything, I would talk about the importance of that. So that's one tool, insurance. And the next tool, the very uncomfortable topic, Kyle, of estate planning.
Yeah.
And acknowledging the fact that we all have an appointment, one that we cannot escape, one that we cannot postpone. And that's, you pass from time to eternity, and we need to plan for that. Prince never had a will. Diego Maradona never had a will. and it creates so much problems, so it's stuff like that.
How do you even have those conversations though? Because they're so uncomfortable. Because I remember sitting down as a teenager with my grandparents, my dad, and his sister, and they were talking about what they wanted in their will. Like they wanted us to go around and like put our names on the different things that they collected over the years, so that way they know who wanted what. And it feels awful to go and
Yes.
have that mindset when I would trade all that stuff in for one more day with my grandpa. You know,
Yes.
like how do you have those conversations and how do you approach it from a mindset to where you're not thinking of it like as a way to like make yourself better. You're thinking of it as a way to like help ensure that their wishes are met.
Wow, excellent question. It's not a subject that I even like to talk about, but the
Me
way how I
neither.
get my yeah, the way how I get my mind set right, so I can
Hmm.
put my will in place and so on, which I have, and I talk about it in the book. I visualize everything, right?
Yeah.
So I argue that I don't want my family to be grieving about my loss. Hopefully, that was a joke. Um, I'm sure they will, depending on who goes first. So I don't want them to be grieving over
Mhm.
me not being here, and at the same time stressing over how quickly the assets are transferred,
Right.
and not having the cash to pay the transfer tax and pay attorneys. So I
Right.
visualize the double impact of stress, and when I see that, then that gives me the energy to get over myself and the discomfort and go write that will and have the difficult conversations about who would get what. That's what I do.
That helps from the aspect of the person writing the will, but the person who's sitting on the other side of it when you're trying to sit your kids down and be like, "Look, if something ever happens to me, like
Oh,
yeah,
oh,
that's the
oh.
harder part, I think, because it just feels like you're sitting there like
I see what you mean.
counting the stuff that you're going to get when they pass, and I hate that feeling.
I didn't fully get the question. I'm glad you clarified.
Well, both are hard, and I think that your answer was great too.
Yeah, that part, I don't have an answer for that. It's just a nasty feeling. But if I were to give an answer, and I think my I have three sons.
Hmm.
I think they're there. They have accepted that it is what it is, right?
Right.
One day, if it goes based on age and chronology, my parents won't be here, and this hard conversation is to reduce the pain and the stress when they're not here, rather than ignoring it
Mm,
and
that's a
not putting in the plan.
that's a great point.
I think they get it. I genuinely think they get it. And how I know that, I heard my 8-year old say, I don't remember what we are talking about, but he said, "Dad, when I'm 50, I don't think you'll be around."
Aw.
And so they get it. Yeah, they
Right,
get it.
right. Uh, I think the what you said about minimizing the impact and stress, I think is the mindset that we have to think of when we're sitting on the other side of that table. Like, yeah, it's not comfortable for us, but at the same time, we want to give our loved ones the peace of mind that they know that when they're gone, that they're not gonna that they didn't leave anything unfinished. That that their wishes are going to be honored. That people are taken care of. I think we give them that peace of mind and we approach it from that mindset. Maybe that makes it a little easier.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree.
Um, okay, so that's grow, protect, sow. That's the 14 steps of financial freedom. I think you could almost write a book report, but
Yeah, yeah,
but we still, if you want to dig deeper into these topics and these ideas, you should definitely check out the website 14 steps to financialfreedom.com.
yeah. And the website has some free stuff, if you don't mind me.
Oh, I'm looking at it right now. Yep, it does. I love
Yeah.
it.
So if you want to get a quick and dirty sense of your financial status or financial health, there's a free financial health test. Takes you like 10 minutes if you can sit down with your spouse or your spice.
Spice. Nice.
And it will, and again, it's all the disclaimers are there, but it will help you to figure out if you're at one of three stages: total financial independence, partial, or financial bondage. Don't like to say that, but those are the three.
It's better than terminal.
And for those persons who buy the book, if you come back to the website and upload a copy of the receipt,
Hmm.
then you'll get a free workbook. And the workbook is a consolidation of all the money journal assignments at the end of each of the 14 steps in one place with stuff for you to put your notes in. You hear that?
Nice.
Yeah. People love it, man.
I bet. Man, okay. Well, we covered a lot of stuff today, from growing up in Jamaica to sharing your message and finding your passion and just inspiring other people. I think this has been fantastic, Bruce.
Thank you.
One last question I got to ask you is, why do you have a UK license too? One of your accreditations. You got the US, you got Jamaica, and the UK.
Kyle, you're asking all the great questions, man. So my UK license stemmed from the fact that Jamaica has a UK history and heritage. We don't have in Jamaica a national body like the AICPA. Well, not even so much the AICPA. No, that's not a good example. We don't have the equivalent to a NASBA. So NASBA is the body in the US that sets the CPA exam, right? So we don't have a national body in Jamaica that sets a national exam that is globally accredited. We don't. So what Jamaicans have to do, we have to find a country who has such a accounting designation and sit that exam. And so that's what happened. So even I live in Jamaica, we typically sit the British professional exams or the AIC, the NASBA, the CPA in the US. Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
So I did the UK one first, just because, again, our history with England and being a colony, and so having sat the UK exam with the UK body, I applied for membership with the UK body. But the Jamaican Accounting Institute is a personality and an entity on its own who also issues their license, but they ride on the back of the exam set by the UK. I don't know if any of that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And
yes, that makes a lot of sense. Are you going to go to the UK? Have you been?
I've been to the UK a number of times, but I love it in beautiful, sunny Jamaica, where I can play golf every day if I have the time. But I love to visit.
I'm jealous listening to your birds out the window.
And we have some amazing golf courses, especially in the resort towns, like in Montego Bay. Oh my goodness. Some of those courses are majestic. And so yes, I'm rubbing it in. Come to Jamaica, everyone who's listening, and spend some money in our tourism industry. We need it for our GDP, man. Come over to Jamaica and feel all right.
Okay, I think that's the end of the episode here. Thank you so much, Bruce. Unfortunately, we have come to the end of our time. He's got some birds to feed.
Yes, thank you.
Make sure you check out his website, or from the website you can pick up the book, or you can find it on Amazon. It's 14 Steps to Financial Freedom. Website is the same name. We'll have links in the episode description. You can find us at twobullsinachinashop.com. We'll be back in your ears soon with another exciting episode. But in the meantime, harness your inner Bob Marley and puff past this episode to your friends. Take care.
Thanks, Kyle. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Without the ones like you, who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power plants, they all depend on you. No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Grainger, we're here for you with professional-grade industrial supplies. Count on real-time product availability and fast delivery. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
When you download the Kroger app, you have easy access to savings every day. Shop weekly sales and get personalized coupons to get the most value out of every trip, every time, whether you shop in-store or online. Download the Kroger app now to save big. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Must have a digital account to redeem offers. Restrictions may apply. See site for details.
Save big on your favorites with the Buy 5 or More Save $1 each sale. Simply buy 5 or more participating items and save $1 each with your card. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Two Notables in a China Shop is an entertainment program, and all thoughts and opinions expressed in the show belong to the hosts and not of any company. They are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security or investment product. It is only intended to provide entertainment about stocks in the financial industry of trading. If you make trades based on what you hear in this show, you assume all risks for those trades.